everybody, and welcome to another edition of Joe's Rod Shop podcast. I hope everyone is having a very good week. Right, so before we get started, I just want to put a reminder out there, guys. Go click that subscribe button or that like button. Leave a message. Talk to us. We'd love to hear from you. Give us some feedback. That would be great. Right, so this episode comes with a bit of a disclaimer. So my beautiful wife was away on a business trip, and I was left with the kids doing babysitting, which is not a problem. I'm very good at that. However, it's very hard trying to do a podcast when you've got a 3-year-old that wants to come see what daddy's doing. So there will be some interruptions, a special guest appearance by Roxy that wanted to come see what daddy wants to do. My guest, however, was awesome when it came to all of this. He's actually such a nice guy, very accommodating, and yeah, it was just great talking to him. But now, who's the guest? Okay, so we all grew up with Overhaulin. It is the foundation for car building shows in the world. It's one of the longest running car building shows that's ever been there. And Mr. Bud Brutsman is the man who actually made that happen. Yes, he is the producer of Overhaulin. This is his idea. He's put it together, and he's been the driving force behind it. He's also the driving force behind shows like Ride, and he's got a whole bunch of new stuff coming out. He heads up a massive production company that does work for SEMA and Optima and all these great companies. He is a great, great guy. I really love speaking to him. I learned a lot from him. And yeah, without further ado, I introduce you to Mr. Bud Brutsman. Bud, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm really honored to speak to you.
No, I don't know why, but I'm excited to be on the show.
Thank you so much. For me, it started with an article I read in Hot Rod magazine. This is in 2004, where you were called the king of the car TV show.
Yeah, it was a big honor to be in Hot Rod magazine. As a kid, we all kind of grow up and we're flipping through that magazine and ripping out the centerfolds or the kind of the posters and hanging them on the wall. And to have the publishers do an article on me at the time was pretty cool.
I mean, you are the reason Overhaulin exists. I mean, it's been one of the longest running car building shows ever, one of the most successful. I mean, how did all of this come together? Where did everything start for you?
For that particular show, or for in my life?
In your life, I mean, production. I mean, you're behind Rides and all these great shows and stuff that most of the South Africans have actually seen. I think Overhaul is currently running on one of our channels as we speak, but like older episodes, yeah. And I mean, I spoke to the channel a while back, and they said they can get Overhaulin from like 6 years ago, and they will run it on the channel and on a motoring channel, and it will still be in the top 2 or 3 shows that everybody will watch, even though they've seen them a million times. You know, it is still one of the best shows they will watch. And I agree. I mean, I love Overhaulin, absolutely love it.
Well, that's the beauty of what's happening now with, you know, the streaming platforms and everything, is everybody gets to choose. And obviously we know nostalgia is really big. And I hate to say that, you know, we've been running for, 16 or 17 years, and we're all of a sudden become nostalgic and people want to see our old episodes. And if they're not seeing our old episodes, they're introducing their kids or someone else who haven't been around, because now they have it, which is the beauty of custom content. Now custom content is like, hey, you want to watch the two or three Karate Kid movies before you jump into watching Cobra Kai, so you understand the context, right?
Yes.
And when people run around with Chip Foose t-shirts, and your siblings or son or your new girlfriend or your wife's like, why do you keep wearing that guy's shirt? Like, let me show you. And then they'll turn on the episode. Oh, now I understand. So yeah, it's cool that there's access to 130, 120 episodes or whatever it is. It's definitely the most successful. But I believe at one time I was at a Discovery thing, and it's actually the longest running continuous running automotive show too. So yeah, other shows come and go, but we were, it's funny. There's a show here in the United States called Family Guy.
Oh, we know it well.
Yeah, you guys, and I love them. And Family Guy, it's not that our show's as big as Family Guy, but we've been taken off the air, and then the fans bring us back, and then we've been taken off the air, and the fans bring us back, and
Exactly.
like every 2 or 3 years, the networks get a new platform here in the United States. You know, there was TLC, then there was Discovery, then TLC, then it was Turbo, and then it was Velocity, and then now it's Motor Trend, and the app came out. Every one of those Genesis, they can't escape Overhauling as a brand or as a
You
kind of a
can't.
movement.
You can't.
Yeah, so
And
it's humbling.
but it's set the platform for car building all over the place. I mean, the amount of cars and stuff that got built and the amount of concept that came out of overhauling over the years is just insane. Look, the only thing, and I always joke about it, where I always say I blame Chip Foose, is the fact that everybody thinks they can build a car in 7 days. Sorry, I'm babysitting at the moment. My wife's is away on business. So if there's a little blonde girl that runs in here that's about 3, it's just because I'm doing babysitting at the moment.
Yeah, your
And I
first mistake is the little blonde girl who's 3 is not a baby, and I'm sure she'll tell you that. I'm not a baby. I'm a little girl because
exactly.
I have my son, and when you call him a baby, they get mad at you. They're like, no, I'm a boy. I'm not a little baby.
Now my son's a year. I've got him down for a nap already. But getting back to the show, the concept of building a car in 7 days, I think that was the thing that always threw it. And the fact that you guys didn't just take and tweak a car, like every car was built from the ground up. I mean that was. I mean, I've got a very small show in South Africa, and I attempted to build cars on that show, and that was a nightmare. It was such a nightmare. I did it for one season, and I vowed never to build cars on TV ever again. Okay, all our parts have come from the States. So you guys can phone and you can get something. Well, we have to wait like 2-3 weeks. Sorry, just give me 2 seconds. I've got a knocking on the door.
Go ahead. Hi, Pumpkin. What's happening?
There she is. Come say hello, wave. There.
Hi, buddy. What's your name? What's your name?
Her name's Roxy.
What? Hi, Roxy.
Says hi. All right, let me just take her upstairs. Give me 2 seconds.
All right.
I do apologize for that. The show is back on.
Nope. We're ready to go. We're good.
Good. Let's get my breath back. I just had to run up and down stairs twice.
That should not get you out of breath, by the way, unless you're like a smoker.
I'm a vapor. I've stopped smoking, but I've still got the one small habit. I'm just very unfit at the moment. This lockdown just did not do good for anything. I'm trying to get back in the gym.
All the gyms are closed around here, and I've been trying to find ways to run, and I've been biking a lot. I've dusted my old tri-bike off and been dusting and stuff like that, but it's definitely harder than actually going to the gym.
Exactly. I tried to go do cycling, but the only bike I had available was my wife's, and I'm 6'1", and she's 5'8", and let's just say it didn't go down well. There was just no setting that was strong enough for me, or that wasn't uncomfortable. But getting back to the show, so where did everything start? Your career, where did it all start for you?
Well, that's a longer story than we need, but I've been producing for a long time, and then what's weird is we came up with the concept of rides, and really rides was that was kind of our first really big show. We were doing some military stuff on History Channel, and I've always had a love for cars, and I've always been involved with cars. Built them and drove them and raced them and did stuff like that. And then when rides came out, it really kind of was this anthology that anything that I wanted to do and anything that I ever wanted to see as a car fanatic, I would create a show around it. Okay, I'm going to go to Bonneville. I'm going to go to the Riddler Awards. I'm going to go racing in Sebring. I'm going to go racing in Baja. It was just the Bible for any car guy's dream. If you wanted to do a 2-year stint on going to every cool car event in the world, we went, right? We just decided to go cover it because we had this anthology show, and it was filmed in HD. It was really well received, and it happened to be A lot of things is timing. It happened to be piggybacked on something that Discovery was trying to do. You know, John Hendricks and Andrew Hendricks decided to launch a thing called Turbo, which is on Tuesday nights on TLC, which I think around the world you guys have Turbo all over the place. So, and on the launching of Turbo, they had to start building some automotive programming because they knew they were going to launch an automotive platform around the world. So when I built Rides, this beautiful anthology with all these amazing storytelling and the voiceover, I did one season and I'm like, there's no way they're going to allow me to do this and keep on doing it. And then they ordered like 20 more and then 30 more. And I'm like, I can't believe it. So, and it just happened as the world sometimes does. Luck plays a lot to do with it. My pilot episodes on Rides was on Chip Foose, right? So the very first episode, you got to think about how crazy that is.
Wow.
The very first episode that I did was on a 38-year-old car builder named Chip Foose. Just opened his own shop. It was small, and he took an interest in what we were doing, and we decided, okay, well, we're gonna build something cool together. So he started connecting us with Ford and started telling us what we're gonna do. And so we did this thrash for SEMA on our first episode. So now I'm really got this really big show rolling on Discovery Channel. So I was a really big Punk'd fan, and I liked the TV show that Ashton Kutcher did called Punk'd. But I also had an issue with it that that you get to mess with people, and they only did it for a day, which turns out to be one of the hardest parts. But they mess with people, and they just kind of laugh and giggle and say the joke's on you. It's the old candid camera. The hidden camera shows are really just messing with people to mess with people. And I always thought that was pretty mean-spirited, and I didn't want to do that. So I created a concept. It's a really, really, really big hybrid concept, as you know, and Overhaulin that we can dive into the analyzing the concept of the format of the show. But it's a hybrid concept. It is a hidden camera show. It's a car makeover. It's a relationship show. It's a race against the clock. I mean, what makes it so is it's not just or hey, we're going to put this starter on a car and we're going to see if it starts and you drive it down the street. There's so many assets, so many things. And I know because we were on the set, day in and day out, trying to not only build a car in 7 days, which is a huge trick, but psychologically, we're also pranking someone for 7 days and keeping them on the hook so they know nothing about it, right? So there's a whole psychological bend to it. And I think you're right when you said your opening statements. You have a lot to blame. Anything wrong, I always blame Chip Foose because he's absolutely a genius and he's a nut. But I knew early on that I had to put a clock on it, right? And part of it is financial reasons, right? You can't employ
production
15. Yeah, for production, I employ 15 people for 7 months to build a car and 15 people for 7 months to film the car being built. And television has a thirst or a hunger, right? They're like, okay, well, how many episodes can you do this year? Can you do 26? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So I had to, so little did I know, I obviously created that part of the format for practical reasons because of the financial part. Like, okay, well, wait a minute. If we can do it under a ticking clock, that's going to create so much drama.
Yeah.
And
tension.
Tension and drama, and it's already baked in, right? Not fake tension. Like all of a sudden you have to stuff doesn't show up for and it's faked. So, but the only person, this is the important part of the story, the only person who believed me or said I think it could be done or didn't outright just tell me I'm nuts was Chip. When I came to him and said, everybody else said no. Everybody I talked to was like, hey, we're going to do this. And they're like, no, that can't be done. It takes 3 weeks to paint a car. We're like, yeah, but I know enough about cars and I paint them now. I know a hell of a lot of cars, but at the time I knew enough about cars to go, but what if you had 5 body work? And what if you bake the car? And then we started about, we look at all the delays, like you said. What if you didn't have to wait 2 weeks for a fender? What if you had the fender sitting there? What if we knew what the hell we were doing and we had all the fittings and all the screws and all the bolts and if you plan it ahead of time, like it's really like military, like a military action. Like I get it. It takes a long time to order food, or it takes a long time to build a tank. But what if you had it already built and it was there? And so Chip and I really started to break down what it was going to take. And this is funny. I'll give you a funny story. So he and I agreed that we weren't going to do a frame off restoration, right? So like you said, we're not just freshening it up. It's not wheeler dealer where you just kind of freshen up a couple things, change some taillights and the steering wheel and put some seat covers on. Not that that's a bad show. It's a great show, but it's just not what we do. So we decided, okay, we're going to paint it, pull the interior out, drop a new motor in it. You know, we're not going to take the frame off of the chassis. And so the very first car we did, which is a 71 Chevelle, we were not going to do that. Okay, great. So I don't know where I went. I think I went home to sleep or something like that on the first build, which we really don't sleep. And I come back, and the goddamn frame is off the car, and the body's sitting over here, and the frame's over here, and engine's out of it, and they went to go powder coat. I'm like, Chip, what did you do? It's like, we don't have the time to do a frame off restoration. He goes, like, yeah, but my name's on it, and I think it's easier to work on the chassis and the motor, and then the body can be over here. So then we started just every single time pulling the body off, pulling over here. We had a chat. As soon as because he was right. As soon as the chassis is off, then we get that powder coated. We can start plumbing it, running all the lines, dropping it in the motor, building suspension, and we don't have to wait for the whole car. And we don't have people climbing on top of each other. Body goes on a body dolly, and they start blocking and sanding it right away. Like, okay, here we go. So we started doing that, and I think it's the only thing. And it's 100% true. I mean, I think we only failed one time, which is on that rat rod car that just went into the 8th day. And we made a big decision. We're not going to lie. I mean, that episode's called Overtime, is because we went into an 8th day. I mean, a lot of times we would go to like 11:50 or we'd push it to the end. And these poor people that are up all night sitting there like, you ready for your car? We'll see you in 6 minutes. It's still in 10,000 pieces. We were putting it together. But yeah, Chip was the only one that believed that he and I created a system. And this is to your point too. He and I created a system, but we also created a system of vendors, right? There were people like Dave Leonard from OPG. We had people from Classic Industries. We had BF Goodrich Tires, Bear Brakes, MagnaFlow Exhaust. We had all those guys who would either, and it's funny is that I can still call them now, and it's funny, we should test it. But I would call someone in the middle of the night and tell them what I need. It's like, hey, I need this fender, I need these moldings and this. We forgot to do this, and they would go, "Do you want me to wake up now and go down to the warehouse and get them for you?" I'm like, "No, it can wait till morning." Some of them just gave us the key. Like someone just gave us the key and the access code to the warehouse.
What?
And just go get it out of the warehouse. Yeah, we had with OPG, we could get anything we want in the warehouse. We had the warehouse manager, and we say, "Go get us this," and we had it. And we did the same thing with Edelbrock. We would go to the warehouse in Edelbrock and take motors and intakes and stuff like that out of it until Vic got a hold of us and then he told us we couldn't do it anymore. But my deal with the supply chain is like, listen, we're a different type of customer, but watch. I mean, by the way, they all thank us now because obviously the show is monumental. It's huge. Yeah. Everybody knows it. And I always call that the reward, right? The reward for believing in me, which is just a crazy nutbag producer, and this genius Chip Foose. These companies who believe in this are rewarded because now they're part of history. They're part of this 16 or 17 year marathon of car build, and their names associated with it. There's not one of them. And all they had to do early on was believe me, send me parts, and come down and put the parts on. That's all they had to do. Like, and if you don't do it, I'm going to find a vendor who understands, believes in us, and understands who this guy is and what this build is going to look like.
Exactly.
And we're going to put you on TV. I didn't promise him back then. It's like, hey, by the way, the show's going to be on for 15 years. And every single human being in South Africa is going to watch it 12 times. Never said that because I didn't know it was going to happen. But that's actually what happened.
It's amazing because you're saying about the Chip Foose T-shirt. I had a bunch of Foose T-shirts at one stage, and with his brand and what you guys did, you could walk anywhere and you could see petrol heads because a guy would walk past you and he'd see the Foose brand on your shirt and you'd get that nod of appreciation. It's like, you're a car guy, immediately. But that show also set the stage for every show after that, because every show after that, even the latest one, everything is always built to a timeline. There's an event coming. There's something, this client just needs this car. Every car building show after that had exactly that same formula, because you, like you said, you brought that tension, you brought everything into the car, into the show, and everything else wanted to try and get it to that point as well, you know. Even though most of and it always got me is, you see these shows and everybody's so under pressure, and then all of a sudden they take a day off so they could go do dune buggy riding, or you know,
Golfing or something. Yeah,
God,
yeah.
and you're like, I owned a shop. Okay, there's no going to drive anything. Shit needs to get done. Okay, I've never seen a
No,
shop
yeah.
that's, yeah.
We didn't
So
really have any time to do any of that crap at all. I mean, we were always so far behind. And I mean, I think the network always like, hey, let's go have fun. Like, there's no fun in this. We were actually thrashing. It was the thrash to get a car done. And by the way, I mean, what really motivated Chip and the A team is early on is we would come back and tell them the stories. You know, hey, this guy's got a great story, and we're building it for its dad, and they really want to know the purpose, right? And they, it's funny is that they'd all stick around, even if it wasn't, especially when it wasn't a celebrity or anything like that. They would all stick around because one of Chip's big thing is he wanted to see the reaction. That's all he cares about is the reaction of someone being happy and making it work. And then he would cry like a baby when they would get their car because
Chip has
with the
cried more on national TV than I think most celebrities have done in soap operas.
every episode, he balls. I mean, especially now. His father passed away a couple
Yeah.
years ago, and we were filming episodes. And every time he said, "This is my dad's car," Chip would just cry, just waterworks. And that's what really pushed him and motivated me. Like people need to understand that these, they're cool. Right? Cars are cool. But that's really not the genesis of what our love affair and our affection for cars are. Cars are a part of our history. Cars are part of our family.
Yeah.
We share the memories in the cars with our dads and our brothers, and they represent something. They represent our childhood. They represent a certain time in your life, at the 80s or 90s or whatever it is. It's a connective tissue to our soul, right? It's not just like, look, I have a cool car, I'm a badass. I don't think any real car guy drives a car and goes, and if they are, they're just a bunch of douches. They don't drive a car and go, look at me, I'm a badass. It's a real car guy would say, this is the exact same car my dad had, or I built this because I like Steve McQueen and Bullet, and then it's an homage to something. There's always a deep-rooted, emotional, visceral reason to own a car that we grew up in. If you're a huge Smoking the Bandit fan and you love that, and you got to have a Bandit car, then you get one. You find a Trans Am, and you build it up, and you do it. And that movie reminds you of your childhood. When you see the Trans Am on the screen, you're like, oh my god, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. But there are deeper emotions. And the good thing about cars, as you guys call them, petrolheads, is that they are visceral and they're tactile, and you can get them and you can drive them, and you can smell them and you can feel them. So the cars are important for sure.
The thing that two points on that. One, what I always loved about the show was you look at towards the end of the show and you can actually see the exhaustion in Chip's face. His hair's all is a mess. He's completely covered in dust and grease and all this type of stuff. And you can see how tired he is, but he keeps pushing and he keeps going. And I think that also played a big role with this it's got to get it done mentality, you know. It's now we have to do this. We just keep pushing, because after that, the amount of events that I've gone to, my dad and them always when we before we did went to motor shows, guys always rebuild their cars before a big show for some other reasons, like 4 weeks before the show, and then the whole car gets stripped and almost rebuilt and getting ready for the show. And I remember with my dad, you're watching Overhaulin, and we're spending the time getting cars ready for shows. And it's the same, 1-2 o'clock in the morning, and you're still out, you're still in the garage, you're wrenching, and then you go sleep for 3-4 hours, and then you drive off to the motor show. It's just that, it's that gearhead mentality type of thing that gets into it. It's got to be right, and you got to get it done.
Okay. But I don't want anybody to feel sorry for Chip, because all of that is self-inflicted, and I'll tell you why. And it pisses me off. We would fight for so much. So don't feel bad for Chip if he looks exhausted or he looks like he's going to die, because here's the thing about Chip is Chip really can't help himself to do things perfectly. And more importantly, it's not even perfectly, because you got to remember that we weren't rebuilding cars. We were customizing, refabricating, moving stuff. Like Chip would come in and he would do his drawing, and I would look at it. And I mean, now especially, but even back then, a pretty good gauge of how to get shit done. And he would start drawing and doing stuff. And I'll tell you a story that happened to us at SEMA. And it was bad. We get in a lot of fights. But what would happen is Chip's a very positive guy. He's also very rebellious. So he would want to, cut or chop or section a car. And I would tell him no. I'm like, dude, no, that's going to add, I mean, I knew exactly what I was talking. That's going to add probably, 20 or 30 hours to this build. And we don't have the kind of time. We don't have that kind of time. And nobody else around us. I mean, half the people around us didn't know. I mean, we had great builders. Our A team was amazing, but then you start moving body lines of cars and all kinds of random. There are very few people who can go at that level. So Chip would look at me every single time and go, I'll get it done. Watch, I'll get it done. I'll work tonight and get it done. And so probably just to prove me wrong and piss me off, right? Because Chip never likes to fail. That little bastard would be in there for 3 days straight, just working on that one design. It doesn't matter. It's like, I'm moving the gas. Why? The gas looks fine. It'd be cooler if it was over here. Yeah, it'd be cooler if the car was done in 7 days and we can actually not be liars to our audience. No, but it won't take that much time. Like, yes, it will, because you have to cut this out and put the structure and move that. He's like, oh, I can get it done. It'd be, and then just to prove me wrong, because I know I'm his nemesis. Just to prove me wrong, he would do that design element. And then we would sit there and everybody's crying. And he's like, see, I told you the gas door. And I'm like, he didn't even notice the gas door. That guy didn't even know it got moved by 3 inches. Yes, he did. And I'm like, he would just, his mind is so incredible, but literally move the gas door. So the story, you should hear this story. And we got in a fight. I won this one. I don't think I won many of them, by the way. But he does things just to make sure prove me wrong, right? That's his fuel, is to prove me wrong. If I'm that kind of catalyst, I guess it's good. So we were at SEMA. We were doing a 71 Challenger at SEMA. Really nice car. Great backstory. I go away for a couple sponsor meetings because at the time the show is just cranking and it's in its heyday. I come back at 11 or 12 o'clock at night, and there's and you got to understand these subtleties of Chip. And there's a tape line on the front fender of this Challenger. Pretty big tape line, and it goes all over the hood and on the other side of the fender. And I look at it and I said, hey, Chip, what's the tape line for? He's like, oh, I'm going to lengthen the car by 3 inches. Fuck you are. No, you're not. Like, no, you're not. I took the tape line and I ripped it off the car. And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, you can't. It has a K member, and you're going to, then we have to pie the hood and do the hood out, and we have to get new glass. You're going to move the cows. Like, in his mind, he thinks this car is too short or too long, or he's going to extend it out and look better. And he's always right. It's not wrong, right?
Yeah.
He's the kind of guy that like looks back, puts his thumb up and go, yeah, that car's about this much too short. And if I lengthen a little bit, it'll drop this line. Shut up, man. So we're in the middle, and the problem with SEMA is we have a live audience. And SEMA, part of my deal with SEMA is we have to have a live audience be done at 5 o'clock on Friday so we can unveil the car. So we don't have this moving target where 5 o'clock in the afternoon becomes 10 o'clock, and you don't have an extra 5 hours. So he sits there and he tries to convince me, and I'm pissed. I'm like, no, you can't cut this car in half. It's either we take it off to the paint shop in the next 2 hours and get it primed and painted, or we'll never get this thing done. And he threw a fit. He was very angry at me and all this other stuff. It's like, he was really pissed at me. But I won that one because we didn't cut the car in half. But most every other time, move this, shove this down, this doesn't work. And he's just got this mind, and he doesn't care. And the minute you tell him no, he's going to try to go prove you wrong, because Chip Foose can do anything with a vehicle, anything.
And I mean, so what's next from a show perspective? I mean, Overhaulin's back. I mean, you guys have got a bunch of new out. You've got that show out, The Fixers. I saw that.
I got the show, The Fixers. The big thing that's next, The Fixers is coming out October 21st, right? I'll give you a bunch of fun little sneak peeks. So October 21st, The Fixers is coming out, which is another build show I'm having. That's a big premiere. It's on BYU TV. It's on the BYU app. It really, the feel good TV of what we do, you know, part of what Overhaulin is really, you know, helping people and doing something nice for people and doing something good for people. And we kind of extended that into fixers. Me and a group of building contractors are traveling around the world and we're building infrastructure. We're not traveling around the world now. We actually did a show in South Africa too. We did one in Kailicha. We built a community center in Kailicha.
Wow.
A beautiful, yeah. It was an agriculture training center in Kailicha, teaching the impoverished people how to do sustainable growing and how they can use even their small little plots of land and reusable water to grow their own food. So that, you know, it was in first season. It was great. We are doing probably 3 or 4 episodes here in the United States because we're not allowed to travel internationally. So
With
we're
that
doing that
said,
one.
I've got a show that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Because I mean, I've got my local show, small little thing. But I spoke to someone the other day, and we were talking about racing and car stuff through Africa. And I've made oh, you back again? Oh, you want more popcorn? You want more popcorn? Okay, go have your popcorn. Bye. I wanted to go see who's racing what where in the world, but like in Africa, because I found that there's some seriously cool stuff going out in Uganda and Nigeria and all this type of stuff. And I'm like, I need to go do that. I actually spoke to my friend Miles about that. He also does producing and stuff like that. But we just haven't had a chance to look at it yet. But because travel bans, because there's a massive classic car industry in these weird countries as well, and you find the weirdest cars.
Oh no, you find some cool cars. I did a vintage race in Costa Rica one time. Yeah, I was in San Juan, Costa Rica. I was there producing a show called Car Crazy, which we did for 10 or 11 years, and we were down there. Yeah, for Barry Maguire. We were down in Costa Rica, and there's a guy named Diego who's a big car collector. Throws me the keys of the Porsche, and and he goes, "Hey, there's a vintage race coming up in about an hour. I know you race cars. Here's the keys to my Porsche. Go race it." And I'm like, "Holy shit!" So I'm in this vintage Porsche, it wasn't even that vintage, by the way. It was like I remember I had pictures. It's like an '80s 911, right? And the gearbox was all sloppy, and I hit the brakes. The brakes were all wobbly, and it didn't have that much power. So I'm not out in front, and I'm like, and I don't want to wreck this guy's car. So I found myself a couple times diving into corners and racing people really hard. And then I finally backed off. I'm like, I got nothing to prove. I just want, if I can just get this car back to him in one piece, I'll be pretty happy. And it's very funny. I had a camera guy. This is actually super funny. We had no time to prepare for a race. Throw a helmet on me because I race car a lot. So he thinks I'm just going to go vintage race some car I've never been into before.
Oh, so you're going to win.
Incredible.
Yeah,
I'm going to race cars. Like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. So we threw a camera in there. We're like, okay, well, if I'm going to do it, let's use this segment. So we put a camera guy in there, and literally it's getting ready to start, and the seatbelt wouldn't fit him. My camera guy wasn't even that big of a guy, but the seatbelt wouldn't fit him. So we're racing in a race.
Seatbelt he's not even strapped in.
So no, not strapped in. So then I started going super slow. I'm like, okay, I'll do some stuff for camera. Then it just became a television segment because I'm not going to kill this guy because he couldn't strap in. I'm like, because the seatbelt was too short. Like, oh shit. And there's no flight attendant for an extender. So yeah, it was bad. But I think racing around the world is definitely cool. So let me tell you about a big one we have coming up. There's a couple massive ones, and you guys can. I'll tease you a little bit. Well, it just came out like I feel better talking about it because it just came out in some spy photos a couple days ago, and then I'll tell you another one I'm producing next week. So I'm working with Christopher Lloyd from Back to the Future and Discovery Channel, and we're launching a Back to the Future special. There's a bunch of spy photos. We did a scene with a DeLorean, with Doc Brown's van, shooting some stuff. There'll be an announcement coming October 21st, which, by the way, seems to be a good day for me, right? Because we're launching our Fixers series that day, and we're announcing our Discovery series that day. So you'll see it. It's a really cool series. The other big one, which is there's been people know about we're going to be part of SEMA 360. So SEMA is a convention in the United States, and they've had to move it like everybody else to a virtual platform.
I'm talking to
We have
Wade
been producing.
Kawasaki. He's coming
good.
on to talk to us about it. Yeah.
Well, great. Yes, because Wade's a good guy to talk to about it.
Yeah.
And Wade's a good friend of mine, and he was the former, I think he's the former chairman of SEMA.
Yeah.
So he's the SEMA 360. We produced a ton of content for it, and the good news is we are still able to preserve our television show that we have on History Channel called Battle of the Builders. So the Battle of the Builders with Tanner Faust and AJ, we are producing on November 5th and 6th here in Los Angeles. And we'll be posting a bunch of stuff on SEMA 360, including some live updates on top 12, top 4 in the winter. We're gonna be doing that all on that platform, and it's obviously a lot different with the pandemic, but really not that different. What's gonna happen is we have like 350 applicants for Battle of the Builders. That's gonna get cooked down to 40. And then our judges are going to go and do Skype calls and Zoom calls and FaceTimes with each of the builders to kind of look at their car and figure out the story behind their car and how they built it. Then the judges are going to pick the top 12. We are going to fly the top 12 and then transport their cars to Los Angeles and then film in a big studio. I rented a huge warehouse. Yeah, we are doing a lot of the video for SEMA, and SEMA's been my client for a long, long time. And then we've been doing a thing called Road to the Battle of the Builders. We've been promoting stuff. I just finished a couple days ago a video on Chip Foose, who's kind of talking about his experience at SEMA and kind of pushing and promoting SEMA 360. And then we're handling all the Battle of the Builders production for History Channel. So yeah, there's a lot. SEMA's. I think it's still important to tell people, especially the car industry is one of those industries. Now it's very funny. I think if the automotive industry and the aftermarket restoration industry wanted a big shot in the arm, this stupid pandemic is a way to do it, right? Because you have 6 months, 7 months to sit at home and work on projects, right? I mean, there's it's very funny is that they talk about all these dumb super spreader events and all this other stuff. There's 1,000 people at Home Depot and Lowe's, today. And they're all standing in line and they're buying paint and they're working in the house. Because what do you have to do? You got weekends and weekends and weekends of stuff to do. I've done more stuff on my house and people are working on their cars. And I know some people that are just kind of nervously quiet. It's like, they're like, our business is up. Like we can't keep parts in because people are working.
I spoke to the guys from Willwood a while back, and they were telling me they can't. Daddy's busy.
Hi, Roxy.
Say hi. Say Uncle.
Hi, Roxy.
There we go. There, he can see you. There you are. There.
She is awesome. Look at that.
Yeah.
Why don't you just stay? Yeah, just stay there.
Yeah, just sit with Daddy. All right. And I was talking to the guys from that side, and they were telling me that they can't keep up with production at the moment. It's that busy.
Yeah, people are building. I mean, it's really affected a lot of the industries and a lot of I know concerts and restaurants are really affected. But there's other industries in the United States because go anywhere. The RV industry quietly tripled their business because people are grabbing RVs and just driving around. I know people that have Airbnbs in Wyoming and Montana, these beautiful states, that are double and tripling their business. I mean, people's like, if we can't fly all over the place because we normally do, then we're gonna stay here. And so some industries are really down and some industries are really up. Like television watching and Netflix and stuff is up big time.
Well, I was saying to a friend the other day, now his company, he sells off a lot of rough bodies and stuff like that, project cars. And I mean, he's very busy at the moment. And he said that the thing that people are forgetting is there's no holiday. There's no going on overseas trips and stuff. So a lot of people are pumping that money back either into their houses or their projects, which means that money is actually flowing. Instead of moving everywhere else, it's actually flowing back into the community, into the hardware stores, into everything else. And the same with the project cars. A lot of guys, I think, took that motion or that idea of, well, I always wanted it. And obviously now we all know life is short, and anything can happen. So maybe it's time to go get that Mustang I always wanted, at 65 Mustang. Get that project, And then what they also said is, look, the property market's taken a dive, like so badly. And muscle cars and classic cars are good investments. They're very good investments. And a lot of guys are seeing that now. So, like I said, it's changed everything up. Um, I hoped once everything is over that people start seeing how and why it's so important to go back to racing, as in to be a spectator more than anything else, because they're all seeing how crappy everything looks without spectators at the moment. I mean, you guys, at least, I've been watching what they were doing with the football and the baseball, where they have like fake boards up in the stands, so it looks like crowds. And we haven't even had anything like that on this side. There's just been no sport. Hey, you must shh. Okay.
No, I agree. We froze a little bit, but I agree about, how important racing is in some of the spectator sports. And if we can do it safely, and, if we can get a vaccine and we can kind of create herd immunity and make sure the virus doesn't hurt our elderly and stuff like that. I think eventually, just like 1916, we got to stop being scared and kind of go out and do things. I think some of the people, especially as you call them, the petrol heads are kind of tired of it. I mean, it's good to take the cars out. People are taking their cars out and dusting them off and running around and tweaking and fixing little things. But we're going to get tired of it. I mean, you can't live your entire life at home with a mask on, afraid you're going to die, right? There are percentage-wise, way more higher percentage things going to kill you than the virus. I mean, you have to be conscious. I mean, to be smart. I think we got to change some of the health laws and stuff like that they were going on, and we should be wearing masks on planes. I've always thought that anyhow, and now we get to do it. So that's
I actually
put
saw
the mask
that.
on and go to sleep.
I did a trip the other day, and where I had to fly, and every time I get off a plane, normally I pick up something. You always get off after long trips and stuff. You always pick up a flu from somewhere, and this time I didn't. And it's like I said, I had mask on the whole time, and you sanitized the whole time. You were more aware of everything, and it's the first time I came off from a long trip and I didn't come home with a flu or something.
Well, the makers of NyQuil and Theraflu and all these little cold things, they should be shaking their boots, because now that we're a little more conscious of airborne pathogens and stuff that's going to get us sick, and we're also, sanitizing, wearing masks, I think their business is gone. Their business is going to be cut in a third. I mean, they were like, damn, our sales of NyQuil are down by 50%. What the hell's going on?
Exactly.
Because we should be more careful. So it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Look, the only thing that people worry about is that we're not building up antibodies as much as we used to. You're becoming more susceptible to other stuff because you're constantly sanitizing, and we're not building up our immune system. But I mean, that's a whole different conversation at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like the vaccine conversation and that type of stuff. There's so many pros and cons that jumps between both of them. Now, from your side, so you guys, I mean, look, Back to the Future, that's going to be something interesting.
It's going to be a big show on Discovery, massive.
Yeah, I've actually been in a DeLorean. I think we only have 2 in South Africa. A friend of mine had one. Yeah. But I mean, that's going to be cool. Anything else? I mean, Overhaulin is now back, but it's running on Motor Trend. I know we can pick it up on Motor Trend here. I'm hoping we can get like you guys haven't. Where's Bat? Let me rephrase that. Slow down. Battle of the Build, where is that going out? Because I mean, I'm sure a lot of South Africans would love to watch that as well.
Yeah, so Battle of the Builders is going out on History Channel. So I think you guys get History Channel down there. We had it on.
If they give it to us, that would be awesome.
Yeah. We had it on Discovery for 3 or 4 seasons, probably 5 seasons of a Battle of the Builders, and we recently moved last year to History Channel. So it's a very big 1-hour special, and it has all the big players and all. I mean, I think Chip will be involved this year. Some of the biggest car builders, all the best cars at SEMA come together, and they kind of judge each other, and you kind of pick the best car at SEMA. So it's very spectacular.
Excellent. And then something I want to ask you, how do you think the market's now changed over the years from when you started with Overhaulin and rides and stuff to now? I mean, YouTube, all the YouTube stuff that's coming out. I mean, is it affecting the car TV shows that much?
Yeah, I think it does. It depends. I mean, the stuff that's on YouTube, doesn't really translate. Here's the thing. So I have we as a species are consuming more content than ever, right? Listening to podcasts, watching stuff on YouTube, that generation right there is just gobbling up content left and right. I don't think it hurts TV. The thing that it helps custom content guys like us is it's going to help us extremely, because people want custom content, right? What is happening? There's so many YouTube channels and so many TV shows based around custom content. It's not just that simple little niche on one night on TV. It's no longer the 3 or 4 networks get to dictate what we like, right?
Exactly.
We as people, right? Roxy knows, we as people get to vote with our eyeballs, right? If we like Stranger Things or like Bear or we like, Octonauts or whatever she watches down there, we get to vote, because we can see it, we can download it, we can look at it. So there's so many platforms for the car guy to get their TV, and you're seeing that it's not a niche. You're seeing that it's 3, 4, 50, 60 million people in this platform all wanting to see car TV. So it's really going to help our business, because we are, direct consumer is the only way to go.
Do you foresee more car mobile channels like the Motor Trend and stuff starting up more? Because I mean that is kind of where it's going. I mean, in South Africa, we know a lot of guys have stopped their satellite TV and that type of stuff because they've all moved over to the Showmaxes and the Netflix. But your car content, your Discovery, and these guys aren't there. Motor Trend is available here now, but I think we're limited because of certain rights on shows that other because everything runs through DSTV, I think, on our side or MultiChoice. So it all depends on what rights has been sold over to what channel, so they can't show it on that side. That's why I keep wondering if there's going to be more mobile platforms or online platforms coming out to get that nostalgia that's coming in. Like you just said, guys want to go back and watch rides from episode 1. They want to go. Guys, they want to go binge that stuff for the next 2-3 weeks, and go through everything. And those platforms, I mean, that's what these great big, like the Amazon Primes and stuff, what they're great for. It's great for that nostalgia of going back and seeing everything from day one and how it's all evolved.
Well, I don't think it's going to be more mobile. I think what's going to happen is you're going to get more direct to consumer and OTT, right? So OTT is over the top. I do think satellite. What's happening, and it was the necessities in the 80s and 90s, right? We have all these middlemen, and they're middlemen throughout the world, right? Cable, satellite. Then you got every country has 3 or 4 distributors that happen to have this and have this many households. They have all these middlemen, and they're multi-billion-dollar companies. A lot of those, what's going to happen is the convergence, because even Discovery is going on, which is called the direct to consumer DTC. They're taking their entire platform and going DTC instead of like doing a deal with Hulu or Amazon. And you look at really the writings on the wall, and I'll tell you why. And that little amazing little girl is a big part of it, right? And I'll tell you a story about it. So what happened is Disney decided to pull all their stuff off of Netflix. They're saying, wait a minute, we have these multi-billion-dollar franchises. Some of them called Marvel, some of them called Star Wars. We have all this. We have created these. We have the biggest brands in the world, and then we are handing it to Netflix and taking a percentage. That's insane. So they decided to launch Discovery Plus, and Discovery Plus was, they figured out, if they can just get, and they were wrong, by the way, if they can just get 10 to 15 million subscribers at $9 or $8 a month or whatever it is, to launch, and then they can watch all this Disney stuff, because we all have kids and they're all running around. There's nothing you won't spend for the kids. We were really concerned about how crowded the world is, right? So, and how crowded our audience is. And will they pay $150 a month for cable, and then $29 a month for Netflix, and then $8 a month for Disney Plus? And what Disney Plus found out is, and a lot of that has to do with the pandemic, but what Disney Plus found out, if you have the right content and you have the right thing, and you also have the right demographic, which means you have one of those little beautiful little girls in your house, you're going to spend an extra $8 a month. You're going to figure it out. So there is room for multi-platforms, direct to consumer. Netflix is only going to get bigger. Amazon Prime is going to get bigger. Discovery is going to enter with their platform. So I think we will probably have cable at a minimum level, unless you're a cord cutter, which is perfectly fine. And then you'll have 3 or 4 platforms to get all your content.
Yeah.
Right. I still think, sports is a big thing because I have ESPN Plus and Disney Plus. We have a lot of that, based on it. So again, it has to do with custom content.
They say that that's actually what's keeping them the satellite television and stuff is alive, is the sports. That's it. But with that said, we're sitting with a different problem in South Africa. With motor racing, our motor racing doesn't go onto TV at all. Our drag racing, all our major racing and stuff does not go onto TV. I was talking to Khan Media and them, so we could get hold of Motor Trend and these guys, so we can start developing a way how we can get our drifting and our drag racing actually to show, because it's got a knock-on effect for the sport in general. If you can't get TV coverage, that means you can't build sponsorship, which means the sport can't move forward. There's no development that's happening with it. Because at the moment, like my TV show, I run a local channel, but I actually purchase my airtime.
Yep, I've done it. I do that too.
Yeah, I purchase my airtime. It's easier to purchase my airtime and do the show my way. And the channel doesn't get involved anything. They give me guidelines more than anything else. What you can't do. I'm not allowed any strippers or anything. No cool stuff. But so it all stays in. So it all stays in. So that's where we're now looking. Like I said, this is where multiple platforms, because shooting's also gotten easier, if I want to put it in a way, or technology's changed. Now, instead of, where you've had a 5-man crew running around, you've got 3 guys, drones and gimbals running all over the place.
Yep, and you're fine.
Yeah, and with live events, live streaming and events and stuff's become way easier to shoot as well. Normally, I remember when I started probably about 8-9 years ago. You had to run cables between cameras so you could move your feed and stuff. Now everything is synced from one to the next one. So everything, so you can set up much faster. You're setting up much easier, and your quality is actually quite good. Everything's just streaming constantly. So I think that it is changing from that aspect, and like I said, that's an issue that we in South Africa is trying to deal with now. But also, like the Disney stuff, we don't have it yet. Motor Trend wasn't here in the beginning. I think that only during the pandemic they started coming through. So it's just they should just start making sure that everything opens up to the rest of the world, because it's becoming a world market now as well.
Well, what happens is the international markets are late to adapt because the governments get pressure from all the big cablers. The cablers are like, no, you have to block those people from coming in because that's going to hurt my business. And depending on the relationship with your satellite providers and your cable providers, putting pressure on the government, saying, don't let those guys in here, because it is a global market, right? It's a global market. Is if you guys get Motor Trend, that means and you get it off your device or on the internet, that means your local distributor getting a piece of it. So they're going to try to block it. Exactly. This is a money grab. It's a money grab, right? It's no different than the taxi companies trying to block Uber from coming in, because wait a minute, I have a monopoly. You have to go through me, even if the service handles that I want. I have a monopoly. Yeah. But there's a better service out there. Legislation's, because listen, all the taxi companies in New York and Las Vegas tried like hell to block Uber. It just has a better product. Yeah. Uber's a more convenient, cheaper, and better service for the people than sitting there paying for an overpriced taxi that hasn't been cleaned in 15 years, and with a driver that kind of it's just too expensive, or whatever the argument is for Uber. But technology is the connectivity of technology. Like I said, some of the larger or the smaller countries are slow to adapt because they're getting political pressure by the systems that were going to be impacted if you get free content. Yeah. Or if you're paying a U.S. company $9 a month for Motor Trend, they don't see any of it, and they're not watching their stuff.
Yeah,
but they're not carrying it.
But it's also doing, because like I spoke to Cam Douglas from Optima. I mean, you guys, I think you guys do that show, the Ultimate Street Challenge.
Yep. I do a lot of stuff with Optima. They're a great company.
Yeah, the Cam's a great guy. I've spoken to him a few times. And I mean, I want to get like that. The other thing is, you have these guys that are dictating what we can watch and what we can't watch in a way, just because they don't go pick the show. You know, they're basing stuff on budget, and they're like, oh, well, we got budget for this, this, and this. And then we take a whole bunch of other stuff that people don't want to watch. Where if these international platforms that are opening up, everything's just available. Now we can go watch these shows that you guys have done. And we can actually, like I say, go through that. We can go watch from season 1, and we can catch up on all this content and everything that we've always missed. Just because the local channels from our satellite guys have never actually tried to get their hands on it, you know? It's like, oh, well, yep. I mean, when I did my TV show the first time, it was when Top Gear was king, you know? And, well, sorry, Pimp My Ride was still running. And Top Gear and this type of stuff. And the guy, I did the show, and they canceled me after 9 episodes. And the idea, because I wanted something like more real hot roddy, you know, more traditional. I had a lot of rock music in it. The cars were like traditional rods, you know, it wasn't like street rods and that type of stuff. Well, oh, my daughter just deleted something on my laptop next to me. I better go see what
nice. Good job, Roxy. Delete all that.
I heard the I'm like, oh crap, something's gone. Anyway, so they canceled me on episode 9, and then a few months later they came back to me because it took them like 3-4 months to actually see what the ratings were on the show, and it turned out that my show actually did very good. I did really, really well. But when they canceled me initially, they're like, oh, we thought it's going to be blingier and you're going to bring in local celebrities and this. Why would I do that? You know, I wanted to do something based on the grassroots hot rodding in South Africa more than anything.
Right.
So you had to dictate. It's not a dictatorship. You've got people sitting and making decisions on what everybody else should watch at the moment, you know, and the stuff what we're trying to get to, we can't.
Yeah, a lot of guys, like we deal with a lot of networks in New York, and they don't even own cars in New York, right? So you're dictating what we do in our industry, and you don't even own a car. Yeah. Go fuck yourself. I'm not interested. like this is not cool enough. What do you drive? I don't own a car. Yeah, okay, well, shut up. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
No, I agree. The streaming platforms are opening up where our audience can dictate what we do, and our popularity can dictate what we do. It's just hard to get to that point for sure.
Exactly, but that will help the shows moving forward, because then you're getting a true representation of what's going on. It's like, oh my god, the shows that are, because now you can really judge it. You can see that everybody is looking after 72 C10 Chevy episodes are the ones that are kicking ass. All right, so clearly we need to do more shows on 72 C10s. Yeah, so okay.
Yep, absolutely.
So I need to get this little one to bed. So
no problem. I got that's fine. We can wrap up. That was an hour and 15 minutes, so we can definitely wrap up now.
Yeah, listen, it was an absolute pleasure talking to you. Really, really, so cool talking to you. You're such a cool guy, man. Yeah, you always hear these executives, and you're expecting some guy in a suit that's going to come up and
on my deck in the morning, getting ready to go do a bunch of stuff. So yeah.
Nice. Listen, but thank you so much for being on the show. Say bye-bye. Okay, we're gonna go watch Spider-Man. Okay, she wants to go watch Spider-Man.
Bye-bye, Roxy.
Say bye. All right. Thanks, man.
That's awesome.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.